Welcome to the Horizon Audiofiles, a podcast of the Defense Horizon Journal. The Defense Horizon Journal is a professional and academic journal that features essays, reports, and analyses covering geopolitics and law, security and defense policy, peace and conflict studies, applied military science, as well as developments in weapons technology. For more information, go to www.tdhj.org.
Episode number 59. Technical, Organisational, and Strategic Dimensions in Defense-Critical Contexts. By Clemens Kirschbaum and Raphael Dax. Speaking of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, AI, is currently at the forefront of public discourse. Many people and organizations, in both the private and public sectors, drawn to the potential of this technology. However, AI is not a recent development, it has, in fact, been evolving since the 1950s. Back then, Alan Turing, considered one of the pioneers of modern IT, laid the groundwork for machines capable of something like intelligence. A bit later, in 1956, artificial intelligence was introduced as a multidisciplinary field of research as a result of a small conference at Dartmouth College, New Hampshire, US, nowadays referred to as the Dartmouth Conference, quoted by many as the birthplace of modern AI research. In the decades that followed, AI was initially dominated by logic and reasoning, known as symbolic AI. In the 1980s, more data-driven approaches and probabilistic methods were developed, which allowed for a more implicit representation of knowledge, and led to subsymbolic AI. The first expert systems were developed, and the handling of uncertainty improved. Still, the technology struggled to cope with the requirements of real-world complexity. After periods of stagnation, the next wave of AI development emerged around the millennium, when increasingly powerful IT infrastructure, coupled with improved algorithms and better data availability, paved the way for breakthroughs in the 2010s. As applications such as computer vision, speech recognition, and reinforcement learning began to improve rapidly. Yet only recently, with the advent of large language models, LLMs, in the 2020s, the technology finally became accessible for non-IT people and made its way into the mainstream. Interestingly, these language models, e.g., OpenAI's ChatGPT, also appear to have shaped the colloquial idea of what AI means and is capable of. Although AI has a lot more to offer than LLM chatbots, many people apparently remain unclear about what the technology is capable of and what technical principles underlie it. Studies show that competencies regarding AI literacy, often end at a basic level of understanding. Even so, or perhaps precisely for that reason, AI is currently at the peak of inflated expectations, according to the consulting firm Gartner's popular hype cycle of emerging technologies. While some already anticipate AI taking total control of the world, others maintain a more realistic and cautious perspective. This perspective is increasingly pointing towards AI security. Ever since some drastic malfunctions of popular models became public, people have started questioning the reliability and trustworthiness of AI systems. Whether in the context of self-driving vehicles, job application screening, chatbots insulting users, or the breach of intellectual property rights through AI models, the potential flaws of AI systems are manifold and sometimes difficult to detect. The same goes for potential attack vectors on AI systems. Many organizations, along with the providers of AI solutions, have already recognized this risk and are working intensively to counter threats and improve the security of their AI systems. Considerations of AI security are particularly important when the systems being used can have far-reaching consequences for the safety and lives of people, as is often the case in a military context. As we will see, AI security can differ significantly from traditional IT security. Risks of AI in the military domain. When considering the risks of AI in the military domain, it is essential to acknowledge that the uncertainty accompanying the rapid development and application of technology constitutes a significant component of the overall risk assessment. Finding the unknown unknowns, the things we don't know, as former U.S. Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld coined it, proves naturally challenging in the field of AI. Here, however, uncertainty can also come into play on different levels concerning one specific system, the interaction of several systems, or the development of entirely new systems. Overall, this situation creates a very complex risk landscape that significantly impedes precise long-term estimates. Analyzing recent literature, we can nevertheless identify several categories of risk which are frequently mentioned in discussions of AI in a military context. Introducing bias in decision-making. One of the critical concerns surrounding AI in military applications is the potential for false decisions and unintended escalation through new forms of distortion. This can either directly affect autonomous systems or occur through AI-generated, deep fakes of various kinds. Autonomous systems, particularly those designed for target selection and threat assessment, may misinterpret data or execute actions that inadvertently lead to conflict. Given the speed at which AI processes information, incorrect threat identification could trigger military responses without sufficient human oversight. This risk is exacerbated by deploying AI in high-stakes environments where real-time decision-making is necessary. Recent research emphasizes this risk, particularly, but not limited to, situations where AI must engage in unfamiliar domains and contexts with little previous, or only poor, data available. Examples include nuclear early warning systems, autonomous drone strikes, or missile defense systems. On the other hand, even if the metaphorical trigger is pulled by human personnel, there is a growing occurrence of audiovisual deepfakes, distorted early warning assessments, or false positive safety alerts in infrastructure facilities, which can all lead to forceful responses. Ethical and legal challenges. AI's role in military decision-making raises significant ethical and legal concerns, particularly regarding delegating the use of lethal force to machines. The lack of human intervention in critical moments of engagement may lead to violations of international humanitarian law. Additionally, algorithmic biases can result in disproportionate targeting, increasing the risk of civilian casualties and undermining accountability in military operations. While this aspect is already problematic in itself, it also leads to a growing imbalance between states that place a high value on ethical and moral standards and those that do not. Such an asymmetric norm adherence confronts liberal democracies with a moral dilemma: how to uphold normative commitments without being strategically outpaced by less constrained adversaries. Security vulnerabilities and AI exploitation. AI systems are eventually vulnerable to cyber threats, including hacking, data poisoning, and adversarial attacks. These vulnerabilities create opportunities for adversaries to manipulate AI-driven decision-making processes, potentially causing incorrect assessments or the malfunctioning of autonomous weapons. A growing dependence on AI systems necessitates well-considered cybersecurity measures to prevent exploitation. AI arms race and global instability. The rapid development and deployment of military AI technologies contribute to an international arms race, with nations competing for technological superiority. In the context of AI, the winner takes it all principle likely applies even more strongly than in other domains. This means that those who excel in the field of AI utilization have a significant advantage over those who are either not as advanced or have implemented it less successfully. Over-reliance on AI and human complacency. A growing dependence on AI may lead to too much trust being placed in algorithmic decision-making, diminishing human oversight. This might, in turn, lead to military personnel being less inclined to critically assess flawed or incomplete AI recommendations in particular scenarios. This over-reliance can result in strategic miscalculations and ineffective operational planning. Recent research also indicates a loss of skill amongst human personnel. When AI is frequently used for a given task, a pattern reminiscent of the decline in navigational skills following the widespread adoption of GPS technology. Organizational capabilities for dealing with AI-associated risks. As it may have become apparent to this point, securing AI is more than a purely technical endeavor. Yet, how can we best prepare for what lies ahead in terms of AI and AI security? The answer may sound trivial, but its implementation is anything but straightforward. Individual understanding and organizational agility will become key pillars of AI and its secure use in the coming years. However, the larger, bureaucratic and hierarchical the organization, the harder these qualities will be to achieve. What is known to developers and organizational theorists as Conway's law says that organizations which design systems, in the broad sense used here, are constrained to produce designs which are copies of the communication structures of these organizations. At this stage, we invite the reader to consider their own organization and reflect on that premise to put the following remarks into context. While the authors primarily address the issue with a focus on the military domain, most insights will also hold true for other organizations that use AI, be it in the public or private sector. As has been demonstrated in organizational theory and management research across various theoretical frameworks, volatile contexts are best addressed by flexibility, adaptive structures, and the capacity to rapidly reconfigure resources. To describe these properties of organizations, organizational economist David J. Teese elaborated on the notion of dynamic capabilities, which describe an organization's capacity to recognize changes early, draw appropriate conclusions, and subsequently adjust its behavior, necessary routines, and processes to develop and sustain a competitive advantage. The idea is not to be confused with individual short-term adjustments but refers to a deeply rooted organizational capacity for learning and transformation. In this light, AI security should, due to its complexity and far-reaching interfaces, always commence at the organizational level. Organizations must first build the capacity to adapt to changing conditions on a system structural level. Developing effective integrated system landscapes is already and will become increasingly relevant as warfare is getting more connected and integrated than ever. A pioneering example of such system landscapes and development approaches can currently be observed in Ukraine's Delta system. Delta is a real-time digital battlefield management platform that integrates data from drones, satellites, sensors, and human intelligence into a unified operational picture. It was developed through a highly adaptive, iterative process that combined agile software development with close civil-military collaboration, aligning with NATO standards while remaining flexible and open for rapid innovation. In contrast to traditional military system architectures, which are often siloed, rigid, and slow to evolve, Delta embodies a networked, interoperable, and user-centered design philosophy. Such an approach enables quick and iterative improvements in the event of any weaknesses in the system or its components. In that line of argument, we see that organizations with strong hierarchical structures often struggle to respond quickly to change. Change is typically understood as a linear transition from a certain state A to a desired state B. However, in dynamic environments, change is more of a continuous, pervasive process that requires ongoing adaptation rather than discrete transformations. From an organizational perspective, the apparent problem is that large, hierarchical, and command-driven organizations typically exhibit a preference for stability and control, which manifests in rigid structural arrangements. This, again, echoes Conway's law, according to which system design inevitably reflects an organization's communication and coordination structures. Given a constantly evolving threat landscape that results from integrated or even orchestrated threats, this would lead to insufficient results with regard to security. Moreover, due to the nature of threats, it will neither be feasible nor functional to rely solely on internal experts within the organization. Instead, what is required is an institutional foundation for efficient and reliable collaboration with external knowledge and/or technology providers and expert groups. The current situation in Ukraine demonstrates the effectiveness of collaborations between public and private entities, as well as in some cases, individual actors, in facilitating the development and improvement of a military's capacities. Another noteworthy example is the U.S. Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, initiative, which serves as a transfer institution for mission-oriented cutting-edge research from a variety of sources to support U.S. military forces with the latest technological innovations available. Understanding AI security. After we have outlined organizational frame conditions that we consider essential for the secure use of AI, it is worthwhile observing what makes AI security so special after all and in comparison to other IT systems. AI systems are generally understood as socio-technical systems. As such, their security requirements differ from purely technical systems, as there is a much stronger emphasis on a holistic safety and security assessment that includes technical, social, legal, environmental, and other aspects. Furthermore, due to the inherent complexity of socio-technical systems, a complete prediction and control of such systems is unrealistic, and in the case of AI, which largely relies on probabilities, it is hardly possible. Uncertainty inevitably plays a vital role as a component of risk. Adding to that, defining and analyzing the boundaries of a system can be challenging when the overall system expands beyond the technical level. Thus, one should also differentiate between securing an AI model versus securing the overall system. In other words, it is valid and important to improve a model's resilience in the face of adversarial attacks. However, this is not sufficient for ensuring the robust functioning of the overall system within its use case. Until recently, though literature and respective guidelines addressing holistic assessments of AI systems were scarce, with research having focused mostly on the technical assurance of AI models. The debate, however, has gained momentum at least in the private sector since the entry into force of the AI Act, as the Act requires providers of particularly high-risk systems to design them in a way that they achieve an appropriate level of accuracy, robustness, and cybersecurity, and that they perform consistently in those respects throughout their life cycle. In this regard, Art. 15(4) of the Act explicitly mentions technical and organizational measures to safeguard the system with regard to errors, faults, or inconsistencies in the system's operating environment. Although most military AI applications do not fall under the scope of the AI Act, the criteria mentioned there can still serve as a good benchmark for the requirements of the systems. In general, organizations should audit their AI systems to ensure the system's trustworthiness, a notion that includes elements of not only transparency, accountability, safety, and security but also ethical considerations and privacy. Each of these is potentially difficult, but the real challenge lies in the interfaces between those domains and, particularly, the actors responsible for them. These actors include developers, users, and executives responsible for the uptake of AI services in the organization, as well as professionals from the legal domain and procurement. Going into detail on the requirements for trustworthy AI systems, Brundage et al. Suggest 3 domains vital to developing trustworthy AI systems, namely, institutional mechanisms, software and hardware. If addressed properly, these domains can serve as guidelines for achieving trustworthy AI ecosystems. Institutional mechanisms. Institutional mechanisms describe the principles that an organization establishes for the development of AI applications. These principles relate to the organization's underlying values as well as development principles such as process documentation, information exchange among developers, third-party auditing, red teaming, and incentives for reporting incidents, biases, and safety concerns. They regularly serve as guidelines that enable the evaluation of systems. In the private sector, such principles are further understood as a benchmark for assessing a company's responsible use of AI. Brundage et al. Note that by 2020, over 80 AI organizations had publicly stated they're developing principles for AI applications. Whereas, in a military context, the red teaming approach can provide valuable insights, particularly in revealing hidden risks, unknown unknowns. This approach involves simulating attacks on systems from the viewpoint of an enemy to discover weaknesses within the observed systems. Software. When thinking of the software component, robustness is considered the central competency. To achieve an appropriate level of robustness, software, i.e., algorithms, should be regularly evaluated through methods of adversarial machine learning. These evaluations go beyond traditional red teaming due to the specificity of machine learning applications and their ongoing training, deployment, monitoring, and retraining cycle. To achieve robustness through adversarial methods, the algorithmic structure of the systems must be taken into account. Large language models and image recognition are 2 prominent examples. Large language models, LLMs, are increasingly implemented in various use cases and proposed projects. As machine learning systems become more complex, LLMs are increasingly integrated to facilitate user interaction and interpretability. This approach enables non-expert users to query and comprehend machine learning outputs through natural language interfaces, thereby bridging the gap between advanced computational models and human interpretability. This approach promises an increase in velocity, especially when confronted with substantial volumes of data in a fast-paced decision-making process. Complications could arise when considering the security aspect of LLMs. Borrego et al. 2014 examine the increasing sophistication of jailbreaking attacks against LLMs, which aim to bypass safety mechanisms that prevent harmful outputs. Harmful outputs in a military context could include presenting a user with information above their classification clearance or other violations of an established need-to-know chain, compromising strategic or tactical robustness. It is not a necessity for this to arise from malicious intentions on the part of the user. It could also be due to AI applications not being improved through adversarial methods. According to recent studies, such LLM jailbreak attacks remain highly effective, even against modern safety-tuned models. In this case, adaptive attacks that refine their strategies iteratively significantly outperform simpler methods. As AI systems become an increasingly important component of military decision-making, image classification models are being utilized in reconnaissance, target identification, and battlefield assessment. The promise of AI-driven vision systems lies in their ability to rapidly process large volumes of sensor data, providing near-instantaneous intelligence and reducing human cognitive workload in high-stakes combat scenarios. However, the security vulnerabilities inherent in AI-based image recognition models pose a significant risk to military effectiveness. Adversarial methods, which involve imperceptible perturbations to input data, can deceive deep learning models into making critical misclassifications, potentially altering the course of military operations. Chen et al., 2022, examine the threat posed by adversarial examples to military AI systems, focusing on their potential to disrupt the kill chain, the sequence of steps required to find, fix, track, target, engage, and assess F2T2EA enemy assets. The term adversarial example, as a technical term, hereby refers to the intentional deception of an AI system through the injection of perturbations into its input data, e.g., applying certain graphical patterns to military equipment to evade visual reconnaissance systems. The study highlights how image-based adversarial attacks can be weaponized to delay or even neutralize enemy strikes by disrupting AI-driven reconnaissance and target acquisition processes. For instance, the U.S. Army Research Laboratory has previously demonstrated how adversarial perturbations applied to physical objects, such as stickers on vehicles, can prevent AI systems from correctly identifying them as military targets in both urban and forest environments. However, the tactical impact of adversarial attacks extends beyond mere misclassification. When adversarial examples are introduced at the find and fix stages of the kill chain, AI-enabled ISR, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance systems can fail to detect or misidentify enemy units, leading to flawed targeting strategies. In Chen et al.'s wargame simulations, an AI reconnaissance drone tasked with identifying enemy infrastructure failed to recognize its target due to an adversarial modified camouflage pattern, significantly increasing the mission's duration from 6 minutes to over 30 minutes. The delays caused by adversarial attacks allow enemy forces to reposition assets, execute countermeasures, or even gain the upper hand in an engagement. The consequences of adversarial compromised AI are particularly severe in autonomous weapons platforms, where real-time image recognition dictates engagement decisions. Misclassification of civilian structures as enemy combatants or vice versa could lead to either unlawful collateral damage or mission failure due to an inability to execute valid strikes. Moreover, adversarial techniques can extend beyond image classification to affect SAR, synthetic aperture radar, imaging and infrared recognition systems, posing risks to AI-enhanced surveillance and early warning systems. Hardware. As military AI systems increasingly rely on specialized hardware accelerators, such as GPUs, TPUs, and domain-specific AI chips, the security of these infrastructures is a pressing concern. Unlike traditional computing environments, where trusted execution environments, TEEs, and secure enclaves protect against adversarial access, most AI hardware lacks standardized security mechanisms. This creates potential vulnerabilities, especially in high-stakes military contexts wherein adversarial actors could exploit hardware weaknesses to compromise AI-driven decision-making systems. Brundage et al., 2020, discussed the growing need for trusted execution environments tailored to AI workloads, particularly for machine learning models deployed in classified or sensitive operations. The risk extends beyond software-based attacks. Hardware vulnerabilities such as side-channel attacks, model extraction, and fault injection could enable adversaries to steal, manipulate, or corrupt AI models running on insecure processors. Secure enclaves, designed to isolate sensitive computations from potential external threats, have been widely implemented in enterprise computing but are largely absent in military AI hardware deployments. This omission presents a strategic weakness in AI-assisted reconnaissance, autonomous systems, and cryptographic AI applications. The importance of secure hardware in military applications becomes evident in scenarios where adversarial interference could compromise AI-based image recognition, autonomous targeting, or encrypted battlefield communications. Without robust security mechanisms at the hardware level, classified AI-driven intelligence analysis tools risk being exploited through model inversion or adversarial perturbation attacks, leading to data leaks or compromised operational planning. A potential scenario involves an adversary implanting backdoors in AI accelerators used for UAV-based reconnaissance, allowing real-time manipulation of object classification outputs, potentially altering or obscuring mission-critical intelligence. Looking forward, Brundage et al. 2020 argue that future military AI systems must integrate secure execution environments directly into their hardware stacks, ensuring that machine learning models operate within verifiable, tamper-resistant infrastructures. This includes the development of AI-specific TEAs, cryptographically secured model deployments, and proactive anomaly detection systems at the hardware level. While existing research has focused mainly on software-based AI security, the authors emphasize that without secured hardware foundations, even the most advanced adversarial defenses remain vulnerable to physical and side-channel exploits. Conclusion: integrating AI in military applications presents a complex landscape of risks that necessitate a multifaceted approach to security. As AI systems evolve, their vulnerabilities must be addressed through robust institutional mechanisms, continuous software assessment, and secure hardware infrastructures. Rapid technological advancement, combined with a considerable potential for unintended consequences, adds to the complexity. An often overlooked pitfall, particularly in larger organizations, is the lack of capability to respond dynamically to evolving technological requirements. Considerations of AI security must include adaptability within organizations. Thus, the development of trustworthy AI systems consists of a prominent hard part that addresses the security aspect of AI applications themselves. Still, it should be accompanied by a soft part concerned with the organizational context and embedding of the technology. Put more drastically, if there is one piece of advice to be given, it is this: ensure that the departments responsible for AI-related matters have access to all necessary information and interfaces, and are empowered to autonomously and directly respond to emerging risks. Lastly, it is essential to consider that although AI has been around for some time, we are currently witnessing a rapid shift in how the technology is shaping the military domain. What holds true today may be outdated a week later. Accordingly, most technical considerations should be viewed with a degree of caution. From the author's perspective, the greatest potential lies in the organization's structural orientation towards agile ways of working, enabling faster responses to technological developments than the competition, while also facilitating the integration of internal and external expertise to achieve superior outcomes. Future research might investigate how organizations can systematically integrate and utilize heterogeneous knowledge sources and expert contributions effectively. Moreover, it would be beneficial to map already existing expertise within organizations and explore mechanisms to foster cross-functional collaboration. Ultimately, the most successful actors in the long run will be those who are not just aware of individual risks and threats but also build AI systems and organizational structures capable of adapting to rapidly changing technological landscapes. The authors: Clemens Kirschbaum is UGASAI's head of research and an assistant professor for business and innovation management at New Design University. He specializes in knowledge management, focusing on various types of knowledge with a particular emphasis on non-rational types of knowledge and their impact on strategic decision-making and innovation. Before pursuing his PhD in business, he obtained a master's degree in business law. He has published his work in various academic journals and presented at an array of international conferences. Raphael Dax is COO at UGASAI. He has a background in applied machine learning and organizational AI design. Over the past decade, he has primarily collaborated with governmental agencies across Europe to establish AI expert teams and facilitate their development of AI products. His interests include AI security and adversarial AI for high-risk applications, as well as organizational knowledge creation through the use of AI.
This was the Horizon Audiofiles, a podcast of the Defense Horizon Journal. For more information, go to www.tdhj.org. Thank you for listening.